In 2017, fidget spinners went from nowhere to roughly 19 million units in about 8 months. By Christmas, they were in clearance bins. The iPhone climbed the exact same opening curve in 2007. Same steep early rise, same crowds, same sense that everything had changed. One of those two is still climbing. The difference between a fad, a trend, and a megatrend isn't how exciting it feels at the top. It's the shape of the curve underneath it and how long that curve holds. A fad spikes and collapses inside one cycle. A trend bends the curve and keeps it bent. A megatrend bends every other curve around it for a generation. Telling them apart matters because almost everything sold to you as the future is sitting on the part of the curve that's about to fall. To sort the real thing from the noise, you need one chart and 3 questions. Start with the chart. In 1962, a sociologist named Everett Rogers was studying how Iowa farmers adopted new seed corn. Some planted it the first year. Most waited. A few never did. When he plotted who adopted and when, he got a shape that keeps showing up everywhere. It's an S. Slow at the bottom while a handful of people try the new thing. Then a steep middle as the crowd piles in. Then a flattening at the top, once nearly everyone who's going to adopt already has. That curve is called the adoption curve, and it's the single most useful picture in this entire module. The bottom of the S is where the small, weird signals live. The people doing the strange thing before it has a name. The steep middle is where it becomes news, where the magazine covers happen. And the flat top is maturity, where the thing is just normal and nobody's excited anymore. The mistake most people make is meeting something in its steep middle and assuming the line goes up forever. It doesn't, because the S-curve only tells you how far something has spread. It does not tell you whether it will stay. 2 things can climb the identical opening curve and have completely different fates. The fidget spinner and the smartphone are the cleanest example we have. So the chart alone isn't enough. You need to ask what's actually holding the curve up. And that's where the 3 categories separate. Fad, trend, megatrend. By what's underneath the line, not by how steep it looks from the inside. Here's the recurring example this whole series keeps coming back to. Food. Plant-based meat climbed a beautiful opening curve around 2019. Beyond Meat went public. Burger King put the impossible Whopper on every menu, and the line looked like the future of protein. By 2023, Beyond Meat's sales were falling, and the same outlets were quietly pulling products. That doesn't mean plant-based protein is over. It means the curve it climbed in 2019 was steeper than the thing underneath it could hold. We watched the steep middle and called it a megatrend. It behaved more like a fad with a very good marketing budget. The job for the rest of this episode is making sure you don't make that mistake again. A fad is a curve that spikes and collapses inside a single cycle because the only thing holding it up was attention. Remove the attention and there's nothing underneath. Fidget spinners were a fad. So were NFTs. NFT trading volume peaked in January 2022 at around $17 billion a month. People talked about it the way they talk about electricity or the printing press. 18 months later, volume had fallen more than 90%. The technology still exists. The fad does not. The tell with a fad is that the excitement is about the thing itself, not about a problem it solves. Fidget spinners didn't solve a problem that got bigger over time. They were fun, then they were everywhere, then they were boring. When the novelty is the product, the novelty wearing off is the end. There's usually a second tell. Someone is spending heavily to keep the curve climbing. Ad budgets, influencer pushes, breathless coverage. Real demand doesn't need that much fuel. If the line only stays up while money's being poured on it, you're looking at a fad with a publicist. That's most of what gets called a trend. None of this means fads are worthless. Plenty of money gets made on the way up. But if you're trying to think about the actual future, what your job looks like, what your city looks like, what your kids eat, a fad is a distraction wearing the costume of a signal. The skill is noticing the costume. A trend is different. A trend climbs the same opening curve, but instead of collapsing, it bends the curve and keeps it bent. It does that because there's a real, durable advantage underneath, something that keeps being true after the novelty is gone. The smartphone is the clean case. When the iPhone launched in 2007, it looked like it might be another expensive gadget for early adopters. It wasn't. By 2016, more than 2 billion people carried a smartphone. The curve didn't flatten and fall. It flattened high and stayed there because the phone kept solving new problems. The camera, the map, the wallet, the way you talk to everyone you know. That's the signature of a trend. The curve plateaus instead of crashing, and the thing reshapes behaviors around it that don't snap back. Whole industries reorganized around the smartphone. Retail, photography, taxis, dating, news. When something changes the way other things work and those changes hold, you're past fad territory. But here's the discipline. You can usually only confirm a trend in hindsight once the plateau holds. In the steep middle, a real trend and a well-funded fad look almost identical. That's why the test that follows isn't about certainty. It's about better odds, about asking the questions that tend to separate the two before the plateau proves it for you. A megatrend is the biggest of the three and the easiest to miss because it moves too slowly to feel like news. A megatrend is a force so large and so slow that it bends every other curve around it for decades. Population aging is the textbook example. In Japan, the median age is now around 49. More adult diapers are sold there than baby diapers. That single slow fact, a society getting older, reshapes labor markets, healthcare, housing, pensions, immigration politics, even the design of cities. It doesn't spike, it doesn't crash, it just keeps pressing year after year on everything else. That's the signature of a megatrend. It compounds and it shows up as the hidden cause behind a dozen things that look unrelated. The food connection runs straight through it. An older population eats differently, needs different nutrition, and has fewer young farmers to grow anything. The future of food isn't one trend. It's several trends all bending around megatrends like aging and a changing climate. Megatrends are where the serious foresight money and serious foresight attention go, precisely because they're slow enough to plan around. A fad you can only ride. A megatrend you can actually prepare for. So here's the test. 3 questions. Run on anything currently being called a trend. 1. Is the excitement about a problem it solves or about the thing itself? If it's the thing itself, lean fad. 2. Would the curve keep climbing if the marketing stopped? If no, lean fad. 3. Is it bending other things around it that won't snap back? If yes, you may be looking at a trend or the edge of a megatrend. Your task this week takes 5 minutes. Pick one thing that everyone around you is currently calling the future. A gadget, an app, a food, an investment. Run the 3 questions on it. Write down your answer and the date. You're not trying to be right. You're building the habit of asking before you believe. Save that note. In 6 months, look at it again. Some of your calls will be wrong, and the wrong ones will teach you the most. That's the entire practice, and it's the foundation for everything in the rest of this module. Next episode goes one step earlier on the curve, to the bottom, where change is still small and weird and easy to miss. We'll look at weak signals, how to spot a shift before it's news. 3 takeaways. First, the adoption curve is the most useful chart in foresight. Learn to see it under everything. Second, megatrends compound. Fads don't. The slow, boring force usually matters more than the loud, fast one. Third, most things people call trends are fads with publicists. Ask what's holding the curve up before you believe the line keeps going.